I didn't mean to start recording. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're just gonna... Alright, there's two of us here today.
Check.
It's working.
Check it out.
It's working. It's working.
We're working
Alright.
out.
Alright. Hi. Want to put a light on? Hi. Here we are.
I'm so shiny.
Oh, it's because I have makeup on. I have a full face.
Make me less shiny.
Hello, and welcome to Rainbows and Unicorns, the show where we share with you that life ain't all rainbows and unicorns. But I got my roommate here today. Her name is Brianna, and we're going to talk about our trip to the Bahamas earlier this year and how we save money on food, the fact we almost got kidnapped, the accessibility of the country itself, and just how much we kind of learned by just two paraplegics traveling together internationally. And we'll also, we might share our other international trip, maybe bits and pieces of that. Yeah, it was really dope.
It was a really fun trip.
The Bahamas though, let's talk about that. So I won a all expenses paid trip to the Bahamas last July whenever I was interviewed on the Today Show. I'll drop the link down below so you guys can check that out. So they gave me this all expense paid trip for myself and a guest to the Margaritaville Resort in Nassau, Bahamas. We literally watched the boats come in every single day, the cruise ships, and it was really freaking cool. It was 7 days, but we had to cover our food. And the first night we ate on the resort, every option was high in carbs and fats and low in protein. And we prioritize protein at each meal. It's what maintains lean muscle mass, what allows us to stay lean and thin. And I just didn't want to gain weight on vacation. And so when she was helping us bring our bags in, she's like, oh, there's this thing called Instagolfer, and it's a delivery service. And I'm like, holy shit. I looked it up and the food was so expensive. I'm like, Brie, why don't we just wheel the city and go find a grocery store?
Because that first meal for the two of us, I remember because we each got tacos. They forgot some of the stuff on my tacos, and then we shared guac, and that was it. And we each got a drink, and it was almost $80.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And the protein wasn't even there, and we were like, there's no way we can afford to eat this bad. It'd be one thing if we were getting really good pieces of protein or chicken, but that wasn't going to be a thing. So I decided to trust her. I'm like, yeah, we'll just find a grocery store. We'll Google it. We'll screenshot the map and we'll find it.
I know how to read a map, and I want to preface with that. And I did read the map correctly.
It wasn't you.
The roads were marked wrong, or the roads weren't accurate to the map.
Google was not right.
So what would happen is we started wheeling, and then the sidewalk would just end, and it was a big, probably a 1 to 2 foot drop. I'm not exaggerating. And she, at the time, couldn't wheelie down curbs, so she had to go backwards down them. And then we'd end up going off the curb and into traffic. So I felt like at one point someone's mirror was that close to hitting us. We felt the wind of the mirror pass us. And we're wheeling in the streets, and I was like, Brie, we've got to get off this main road. So I look at the map, and it looked like, when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, look, we can take the side road and it will take us to the same spot this way is taking us. So we turned down the side road and we're just la-da-da. And these people are like, you're going the wrong way. And we're like, no, we're not. We're going the right way. This says. And so then the next thing we know, these people turn us up this hill, and we push up this massive hill, and we're at a straw market where it's a tourist trap to buy all the things. But the view was really cool. You could see the whole island. And so we did take some pictures while we were up there and la-di-da, but then we went back to searching for this grocery store. And so for the grocery store, we came from this side road. The thing was up here, so we went down and we had to make a left and then a right. So we go, and this guy starts following us. And I think the craziest thing about the story is, it got dark, and the birds stopped chirping when we turned on this road. It was like a movie where it's we're about to be in danger.
Even nature knew that it wasn't a good place to be. The birds didn't want to be there. I don't know if they have squirrels in the Bahamas, but the squirrels were avoiding that neighborhood too.
It was there was nothing there. And so oblivious. I'm like, I just want to find real food. I want to just eat well. I'm not trying to just trash my life for 7 days straight. We can't. And so this guy comes out of nowhere and he's like, oh, you need groceries? Let me take you. And we're like, okay, cool. And we start following him, and then he takes us to a house. And he's like, they're in there.
You want some chicken? You go in there to get the chicken. And I looked at her and I was like, absolutely not. And I looked at her and I rolled away. I didn't even wait for her. I didn't ask. I knew she would, she was smart enough to follow. I turned around. I was like, we're not doing that. I've seen this movie. I know how this ends. We're getting the F out of here. Good fucking bye.
And I thought we were getting traded into the sex trade. Or maybe someone brought up that they could have been taking us for our organs.
I don't know. I'm not doing it.
We weren't finding out. And so I think the craziest thing was we get back on the main road and the birds start chirping again. And like everything's light and green again. And we're like, oh, that was wild. I'm gonna insert the clip from after we got out of that situation right here so you guys can see that, where we're like, holy crap, I can't believe we just made it out of this. It was wild.
All right, so Brie and I, we took these back roads, like, all right, so look where we're at. We're like in a neighborhood, right? And these guys, the locals, are like, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? We're like, we're looking for food. Like, I want chicken. I want to be able to cook food. And they're like, oh, come this way. And we're like, oh, perfect. This guy's going to show us the way to Main Road. He takes us to a house. He was going to kill us. So Brie and I look at each other. And we both said, no. And we said, we think we're going to go back this way. And we start wheeling, and we get the heck.
They were pushing us out.
Yeah.
Like, I felt very unwelcome in that neighborhood. They did not want us there. They were like, no, you need to go back that way. You need to go that way.
So we're just gonna go back, and we're aborting this mission, and we're gonna regroup.
The wrong way is the one thing. Like, you're going the wrong way. Like, that's what they say in horror movies. Like, you're going the wrong way.
And we kept going.
We're like, no. The grocery store, the organic grocery store, is right here, and he takes us to a house like this, and he's just like, hey, come in here. No fucking way, good sir. I'm going back up this hill. I am not dumb. I'm not going.
Not happening. And then we start wheeling away, and he's following us
until we got past a certain point, and then he stopped following us, and we were in the safe zone because he knew.
So then this is day one. So we had wheeled a mile probably at this point. Because the grocery store was 1.5 miles from our resort, and we're like, we're in the burbs of the Bahamas. And it was not the burbs. It was like the slums.
No
Straight
offense
up.
to any Bahama listeners. We love you. Your country is
beautiful.
beautiful.
The country is beautiful, but I think it's bullshit that you have these massive resorts, but you have these people on the island living in poverty and struggling because everything's so expensive because it's an island. You have to get everything imported. So we go back. We decide to use Instagopher. We're like, screw it. We're just going to use the grocery delivery. So we got chicken, vegetables, all kinds of shit. And the only issue was everything was frozen. The vegetables and everything had been frozen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking that they get it shipped in and want to keep it from perishing. So we had an efficiency room. I cooked all week long. Mm-hmm. At one point I asked them if we could use the grill, and they're like, oh, no one's ever asked to use the grill. And so they had to like fix it for us. So we were able, but then we were able to grill out, and it was cool because the last probably 4 or 5 nights we grilled out every night. And we were able to stick to what it was that we wanted to stick to. Mm-hmm. We did buy the goat cheese from the store at one point. Mm-hmm. I think I got coffee, which their coffee was terrible. They don't have real milk. There's no real milk on this island at all, which I thought was bizarre.
We did buy a side of guac to have with our leftover chicken and stuff.
Yeah.
And
we went down and bought guac, a salsa.
So we bought a couple items, but we weren't spending tons of money on trash food all day, every day.
Right. And so when we travel, we really try to do a grocery in the States. We do a grocery delivery for that reason. So we're not eating like trash, not spending a lot of money while traveling. Like when we went to LA this summer, we did the same thing where we put like a Whole Foods order in, got the Kevin's chicken, got all the things, and then we're solid and good to go. Mm-hmm. So that was our experience trying to get groceries. Then all I wanted to do when we won this trip, literally for 6 months or so, I'm like, I just want to swim with the pigs. All I want to do, I saw Chelsea Hill do it, I think.
Pigs.
Yeah, I saw Chelsea Hill do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to swim with the pigs. Like, Chelsea did it. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, we'll be able to do it. That will be fine. Mm-hmm. We go to the resort to try and schedule it. And every excursion they called said no because we use wheelchairs.
Mm-hmm. They didn't want to deal with the liability of the chairs getting us on and off the boat, because we were explaining to them, like, we're not regular wheelchair users. We can help you. We can get on and off. We can, like, shimmy, lift ourselves, whatever. Like, we literally just need help boarding and unboarding. Like, that's it. Everything else is on us. We got this. We can drag our legs through the sand if needed. And no one would do it. And we were really...
I was really disappointed.
Pissed.
I was disappointed. I cried.
Yeah.
I cried, and that's the first time in a long time I cried over being disabled. And I'm like, if I was just not disabled, and then you got upset because you're like, well, if you would have brought one of your able-bodied friends, this wouldn't have been a thing, because we're both wheelchair users. And that is one thing I've noticed, is like, because there's two of us, people are way more hesitant to allow us to do things, or they're more shocked. Like when we went hiking in Tennessee this summer, and that group of 4 people are like, do you guys need help? We're like literally down in a ravine and we're pushing up this mountain. We're like, nah, we got it.
This is fitness for us. This is what we want to do. And they're looking at us like, okay.
3 hours later, we finally emerged.
If we get stuck, and we're just like, no, we got this.
You know that that interview I had today, it was because she found that video of me transferring to the ground and pulling my chair down on the ground. And she's like, that is the most real, like, disabled thing I've ever seen, and like the most unexpected thing. You would never expect a disabled person to be out in the woods. Like, no. My favorite is when people run into us and they're like, do you need help? And we're like, we got ourselves here. We got to get ourselves out.
It's not even that. It's them and their sheer confusion of how we got out that far. They're like, how the hell are you out here? Like, did you come from the same way we did? Like, you guys on this trail? And we're just like, yeah, hello.
That was my favorite. I think my favorite thing about the Bahamas is how shook everyone was to see us. So a couple days later, we went to the straw market outside of where the cruise lines let out to try and get some souvenirs. I like to get my childhood best friend, Ashley, her son, I get him magnets and keychains of everywhere I go. And it's only been in the States so far. So he almost has every state. And I'm like, I gotta get him stuff from like when I went to Sweden and when I went to Amsterdam and like the Bahamas. And so we made it a point to go and check out these shops, these gift shops. And it was so funny because we weren't even in there for probably 2 minutes. And this guy's like, oh, didn't I see you guys wheeling up on Green Street the other day?
Nope, wasn't us.
It was definitely us. One, because
like,
we're both...
He's like, I remember your pink hair, because I had pink hair at the time, and I was like, well, I can't really argue with that. I highly doubt there's more than one pink-headed wheelchair user on this island.
Absolutely. And so we were recognized by the locals, and that was the whole time, which was really cool, because we made it a point to go off the resort. We wanted to get to know the culture. I'm like, we have 7 days here. If we just stay on the Margaritaville, we're just getting a skewed version of what the Bahamas were.
It wouldn't be real. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, we got to go explore. So one day we went down one way, and the other day we went down the other, and we made it to, what's it called? The fish fry, right?
We got all the way down to the fish fry. So you take from like where Margaritaville is, if anyone is familiar with this area of the Bahamas, you go from Margaritaville all the way down the beach to the local area. It's called the fish fry. They have local shops, local bars, local people doing their own businesses, and that's where we had the most fun.
Oh gosh. So we wheeled probably halfway down there. We were just looking at the sunset, and there was this like cool pier. It had probably a 1.5 foot drop, and then it was literally just concrete pier out into the ocean, and it was probably 6 feet wide,
6 or 7 feet wide, really long out there.
And there was these 3 girls all the way at the end of the pier, and they were taking pictures of each other. And so I'm like, hey, do you guys want a picture of the 3 of you? And they're like, yes, please. So I like wheelie down and I go out on this pier, and I get a picture of these 3 girls, and then they take a picture of me because they just thought it was cool. And I'm like, I'm just gonna need your guys' help up lifting up the ledge over here. So they got me back on the sidewalk, and they're like, hey, we've been partying at this local spot called G Spot. Do you want to come? And I was like, do we want to go?
And we were like, we're in the Bahamas. Let's have one.
At first we said no. So at first we said no because we don't drink.
We don't
like
drink.
I personally, I don't like the way it makes me feel the next day. It makes my stomach super.
So we agreed to share one drink.
Yeah. So we are like, we're gonna share one drink. Mind you, these girls are from Vegas. Okay. So we get down to G Spot, and one drink turned into what? 3, 4?
4.
And he was making them so strong. What were we drinking? Bahama Mamas.
Yeah, because we split one, and then we split another, and then we each had our own two, and then we split another one, and by then...
Trash. Because neither of us drink ever. And the best thing was the owner of this bar, he had a wheelchair-using friend. Dude got paralyzed. I believe he got shot or hit. I can't remember which one, but he was paralyzed for a year, got an infection, went septic, and passed away. But before that happened, he had started making his bar accessible. So he had these makeshift mud ramps up into the bar, so his friend that used a wheelchair could come and experience it the same way. And he like made this big deal to show us and like really take care of
He
us.
was so proud, and we were so proud to see that too.
Yeah, he was so kind. He's like, the next time you come to, I got his number, and he's like, the next time you come to town, you let me know, and we'll go and we'll talk to the Prime Minister of the Bahamas and work on accessibility. And I'm like, absolutely. So that is somewhere I will be going back to for sure, just for that reason. But this dude showed us so much hospitality, and these girls were wild. The next thing I know, we got super, super messed up. We were drunk. Bree fell out of her chair at one point. It was a mess. But then we had to wheel back. So we were a mile down a straight shot. Like, we could see our resort because it was flat and straight, but we were a mile away. So now we have to wheel a mile back at what, 10, 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, and the girls were very much concerned, like, are you guys going to be able to get back? And
I was shit-faced.
They were more worried about Jessie than I. They're like, are you going to be able to get her home? And I looked, and I started drinking water, like, towards that last, like, half hour. I was like, I'm from Wisconsin. I got this. I'll be fine. I can handle her and me both. And, like, and truthfully, though, we did make it back
I
just
wheeled off,
fine.
I mean, I did wheel off the path a couple of times.
I did almost stuck in the sand.
I stickered a sign that had stickers on it, put a wheelchair sticker on there, so we remembered.
Yeah.
It was really dope. We did make it back.
Yeah.
And but every single day every night we went and wheeled off the resort. We made it a point. I think it was the second day or the first day. It was the second day we were able to get down to the beach. Some people from the resort helped us, and this guy lent me his snorkeling gear. And so I got to snorkel for the first time ever. I drug myself into the ocean. I might try and drop that here if I'm able to. I drug myself into the ocean, and I'm snorkeling, and it was the coolest experience. So since we couldn't go swim with the pigs, they wouldn't let us do any other excursion. They're like, none of this is accessible. You can't do it. And I'm telling you, if we had a non-disabled person with us, they would have freaking let us.
There wouldn't have even been a question, because we would have been like, we got it.
Yeah. But because it was just the two of us, they wouldn't. So we went back. It was what, $150 for both this? I think it was $150 for both snorkeling gear. We bought snorkeling gear from the gift shop at the resort. And then the last 3 days we were there, we were on the beach every single day. We spent like probably 4 or 5 hours just on the beach, and we went and snorkeled with a barracuda, which was really cool. I was like, that fish looks really angry. No. And then we Googled it later, and it was a barracuda, and so it was really fun. And we made the best out of the non-accessibility. But every evening we would get back to the room, shower, get dressed, and then we'd just go wheel down to the fish fry and back, so that way we could get some exercise in. And there was this woman every day, she saw us, we had lollipops, and she's like, oh, it's the lollipop girls. Lollipop girls, where are you having girls?
And it was really beautiful that we didn't, like, you know, when you go on vacation, you shouldn't just stay on the resort. You should go and meet the people and talk and see how their lives are like, see what it's like to be on that island, see what they struggle with, because you think that our struggles are really different, and they're not. They may feel a little bit different, and there's cultural differences for sure, but like, we all struggle in the same way. And it's really beautiful to learn how different cultures come together and work together. Like, the cab people were really cool and really trustworthy. Like, kept getting cards, and like they were checking in on us later on throughout the vacation, making sure, hey, you got a ride set up for when you're home. Even if it wasn't like a professional taxi, they still took it as if they were professional taxis. Like, if it was their own little beater car, they still like had the suit, the business card. Like, they still took whatever they were doing very seriously, with a lot of discipline and
work ethic. I think that was the coolest thing about it, is everybody had such a strong work ethic about them, and that's irreplaceable, because so many of us Americans specifically don't have that level of work ethic. And I think that was another cool thing, like going down to the fish fry, there's all these little shops on the side, literally in the sand, little table set up with like handmade things, and they're selling it. Our last day, we wheeled down to the fish fry, and we were wheeling back, and we were looking at the ocean, and this dude had his door open, and he was just beating it so hard, like with the door open. And Bree looked over, and she said, oh my God, never seen a wiener that big.
I still, like, I wasn't sure if it was real. I looked over, I looked back, and I was like, I don't know if that was what it was, but let's keep going. I don't want to find out. But when we talked about it too, like, we asked a couple of the locals, we were like, we're not sure what we just saw. And they were all like, they got very what's the word I'm looking for? They took it really seriously. They're like, oh no, you need to go and tell someone right away, like, what happened. Like, we don't tolerate that kind of stuff here. People go to jail for that kind of stuff. It was really cool because, like, we were in a foreign place with people we didn't even really know, and we're just like, hey, we're a little uncomfortable with this situation. We immediately felt safe with these two guys that were selling their stuff, just like a couple blocks down. They, like, had our back, go tell the police officers, send them on over, like.
The police station was right across the street, too, so we wheeled straight to the police station, and then there happened to be a woman police officer coming out, and we're like, hey, this is what we just seen. It's like we explained the vehicle and everything. Should have took a picture, but we didn't.
I wasn't staying for that.
Yeah, no, it was just so much. But it was the way that they handled it was really cool, because they were just like, all right, let's take care of this. This isn't right. No, we're not doing this. This is wrong. There's kids here. And because this dude was just beating it, door wide open to the ocean, and like people are walking by, everyone could see it. And that's not acceptable. That gives a really bad name to the rest of the island, that's not that way. I think the biggest thing we took away from that trip was how powerful it was for us to just travel, the two of us. Because that was my first time going to the beach without a non-disabled person. Like, I love the ocean, but I hate trying to navigate it in a wheelchair. It's impossible. You sink in the sand. Like, you literally just at the end of the day have to drag yourself through the sand if you want to be independent and like pull your wheelchair behind you, because it's just not accessible. And that sucks, because the beach is my favorite place, which is now why, as a paraplegic, the mountains are my favorite place, because the beaches was it for so long, and then I got paralyzed, and it really ruined it for me. But it had been your first time at the beach since being injured, right?
Yeah, like I had gone to lake beaches in Wisconsin, but I never made the effort of like being in the sand or being in the water or anything. I didn't see the need for that, but then meeting you and my life changed a little bit, and I was like, yeah, no, why the hell am I not gonna be in this fucking ocean right now? Like, I haven't been in the ocean since I was 18, so it's like literally 14 years almost, or 13 years at the time. I was like, yeah, and it was really cool because the day before, she'd gotten herself into the ocean all by herself, and she didn't care how awkward she looked, how silly it looked with her ass cheeks dragging in the sand, how much sand was going to be stuck up in her sand for the next day. Because let me tell you, I learned the next day how much sand goes in there when you slide all the way around. But watching her be like, no, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm doing this for me. I want this experience. I want to be independent. And it was just a really beautiful thing to watch. And so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do the same. And it was cool because the most help we got was from like the resort gate of where like the resort ended and the beach started,
because like, it was a staircase. It was like 10 stairs.
Yeah.
And so we were carried, they carried us up and down those stairs. The staff did. They gave us their WhatsApp number, so we were able to text them when we were ready to come off. And they came out. They really came out and checked on us a lot too. They were so concerned.
They were.
But it was great. Like, that was my first time independently going into the ocean. So I've been to the beach a lot since being injured, but I always had a non-disabled friend or boyfriend with me to carry me into the water. Or my best friend. Like, when I first got injured, Jessica and I went to the beach, just the two of us, and she got that beach chair with the big wheels, and she pushed me in the ocean, and the chair started to float away, and I started to float away, and it was I floated out of the chair, and this guy comes running to like come save me in the ocean. It was so bad.
It happened to me in Fort Lauderdale.
So good.
I do love the idea of those beach chairs, but they are not as accessible as I would hope, and they're not like, if me and Jesse went to the beach, just the two of us, it's not something.
I think we would take our beach. I want to try to take that box chair and see how that does for us. But we'd have to have a non-disabled person with us to like. Still need a non-disabled person, of course. But all in all, I think that Bahamas trip was very freeing and helped us for our later international travel. So in May, I gave a keynote in Sweden, and I actually flew to Sweden with my manager at Wellspect. I flew from Charlotte to Atlanta, met him in Atlanta, and then we were on the same flight to Sweden, where we had a layover in Amsterdam. So he was actually sitting right in front of me, so it was really nice to have him the whole flight there. And then we flew to Sweden. I was in Sweden for a week, got to explore the city a little bit. I went out and whatnot. And then from Sweden, flew to Amsterdam by myself, which was only like an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. It's not bad at all. But then she flew from the States to meet me in Amsterdam for that weekend because my overnight was 2 days. And so I got there Friday, we had all day Saturday, and then we left Sunday. And we had a blast, just the two of us in a foreign city. And I think the coolest thing was when we were sitting on the sidewalk having lunch, and Ellen, my wheel friend that competes in wheel wad games and CrossFit and Wadapalooza and everything, she's from the UK. She just happened to have taken a train to Amsterdam the same weekend I was there. And so she comes wheeling up the sidewalk, and I'm like, Ellen, what's up? And she's like, Jessie, what are you doing here? And I think that was really cool because it shows you how small the world really is. Like, I'm in a foreign country and I see a friend that lives in a different country in that foreign country that I'm in.
That was really cool. And then to tag on to that, the last day in the Bahamas, like it was literally the day we were leaving.
Oh yeah.
We had to go and grab one last thing from the gift shop, like literally right before we were going to the airport, and we bumped into another wheelchair user. First time in the whole 7 days we were there. She was getting off of a cruise. But yeah, it was cool. Just like,
and she lives in North Carolina.
I think she
did.
she
lives out towards the coast in North Carolina, which I also thought was really cool. So she's from the same state we are, but she lives like 4 hours from us, and she just happened to be in the Bahamas at the same time. Like the world's a lot smaller than you think, and I thought that was really cool.
Moments. Very beautiful moments. Yeah.
Definitely, international travel made me very grateful for the accessibility we have in America. Although the country is still very inaccessible, it's more accessible than these other countries, and we have better health care. That guy died of sepsis because he couldn't get medical supplies. He couldn't get bladder supplies, and a UTI, sepsis from a UTI, ended up being what took him out. And Eurosepsis is about 1/3 of the cause of sepsis deaths, which a lot of people don't know. And if he had proper supplies, it's just like that guy in Africa that used to message me, who I think has probably passed away. We got injured the same time. His government doesn't give him a wheelchair or a catheter. He only changed his Foley cath every 6 months because that's all his mom could afford. So what does that say for, one, your quality of life? You're stuck in bed. You don't have a wheelchair. He's a T4 paraplegic. No reason to be stuck in bed. But also the fact that you can't get the medical supplies and you're always sick. So I think that we get so caught up in America politics and what's going on that we forget to be grateful for how good we truly have it in this country, and how full our medical care really is, and how I just think we're ungrateful as a country.
Yeah, as a whole, I don't think, like wheelchair or not, I don't think people have an idea of how lucky we are just for having the clean water that we have, or the sidewalks we have when we have them, or those little shops you can pop in and use the restroom. Like when we were in Amsterdam, we had an amazing time, but we would have to only explore so far because we had to make sure that we could get back to our hotel room in time to go to the bathroom, because we knew trying to find one along the way was going to be very, very hard. Like in the States, for example, like you could pop into a McDonald's and you can find yourself a handicapped bathroom. In Amsterdam, they're not accessible like they are here. Like there's steps and stairs to get into like
everything,
into almost all the McDonald's and all
every
the shops.
That's the thing. Like we couldn't even get into most of the shops or anything because each one had a little step. Like we went to a coffee shop and the hangout area was upstairs. Like you bought your stuff downstairs, but if you wanted to hang out, it was upstairs. And it was really cool because they gave us a table and we got to people watch the people coming in and whatnot. But it was still, it sucked that we couldn't get in on that experience just because we weren't able to make it up the stairs.
Right.
And I think that's something that is really missed by society as a whole. Everyone wants to focus on making us walk again. Why not make the world accessible? Elderly people with mobility impairments need it. Moms with strollers need it. And obviously people with disabilities need it. So if you create accessibility, you're serving more than just the disabled population. And I think that's why it gets so confused of like, oh, this is just something for disabled people, but really this is something that can serve all the people.
All the people. Yeah, just think of the people who are like temporary disabled, who have that cast for when they broke their leg or something. Like that ramp would come in a lot, really handy, even for those scooter. 6 months. Even for those 6 months that you're using that, and you're going to go back to living your normal life, and you're going to forget, within 6 more months, you're going to forget those struggles. But their struggles are still going to be there for people like me and Jessie. Like those never go away. And it was a little discouraging, like wanting to see like her and I both, we've talked about it, like we both dreamed about going to Amsterdam since we were young, and the experience was amazing, but was it the experience you had dreamed of?
No. No.
And that's only because of accessibility.
Yeah, it was really hard to be independent in that city, like especially with the canals, wheeling up the hills for the bridges over the canals. That is the smallest thing, or the biggest thing, I think.
So steep.
Yeah.
And the cobblestone everywhere.
Yeah.
And the broken glass.
Yeah, the broken glass.
So Amsterdam is really beautiful, but Jessie made this comparison. She's like, it's pretty much like a New York City. And
no, it's a New York City, Las Vegas mashup. So it has like Las Vegas vibes with New York City accessibility, but worse.
And dirt.
And dirt, yeah. It was like the trash everywhere, the smells. It smelled like New York City, looked like New York City. The older buildings, the only difference was there was more cobblestone in Amsterdam than the city. New York City does have a lot of cobblestone sidewalks as well, which a lot of people don't realize. But yeah, it was definitely a very, very interesting and eye-opening experience. And then even in LA, like we went to LA this summer, and every day we were doing 75 hard, so every day we were doing an outdoor wheel. And one day I was following too close to Nikki, and I didn't see in front of me that there was a pile of human poop, and I rolled right through it, and it got on my hand and my arms, and I had someone else's poop on me, and it was just so disgusting. And I'm just like, we are so gross as human beings that we don't take care of where we live and what we're going through. So I think that's something that I really want you guys to take away from this is like, just be grateful for what we have. Obviously it can be better. We have to be the ones to fight for it to be better, but get out and experience the world. Get out and experience how inaccessible the world is and how traveling can help you become stronger because it's not accessible. Like you've got to push yourself out of your comfort zone to become more independent if you want to become more independent. And if you're not a disabled person, we need you to speak up and help us be the change. But I appreciate you guys. This is one of my longer episodes. Look at this. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you gained some value today, please share this share it with a friend, directly with a friend. Like don't just like share it and say, hey, this is why. That's how these things grow. That's how we get better. And I just really need your support on that. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're on a listening platform, and I am so grateful for you guys. Remember, life ain't all rainbows and unicorns.